This box is empty. Partly because I'm not lifting that, and partly because the books don't fit in it. There's more. Hey folks, I really needed to do a big unhaul on my shelves. I still have books coming in despite having a book buying ban, and on top of that my shelves were already full. And I was already squeezing things on top and behind, and so I needed to do a good unhaul, and I had a string of books that I had from book boxes that I read and didn't enjoy. And it inspired me to actually go through and look at my shelves and get rid of some of these books that I do not need. Some of them are just because I don't read them anymore. I may have loved them at the time, but I don't need them. And some of them are because they were bad. So let's start with the ones that I don't think I'll read anymore. That seems nice. It's also the biggest set. So first up is Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee. I found this one really interesting and I did enjoy it and I liked the concept, but the execution was subpar, unfortunately. It's meant to be a crime heist and I love a good heist. I love a heist book, but it was just a little too easy. Everything was a little too simplistic. Everything went the right way. Everything was set up. There needed to be more complexity in this book, unfortunately, but the writing was really interesting. Like, I really enjoyed the writing style, so I would read more from Grace D. Lee in the future, but I will never reread Portrait of a Thief. Book of Lies by Teri. I enjoyed this one. I think it's a really fun dystopian book, but again, I'm never going to reread this one. This is about like twins that are separated at birth. One is evil and one is good, and they aren't allowed to interact, and then they interact. This one is a little bit painful. So this is The End of Mr. Y by Scarlett Thomas. I picked this up at the British Heart Foundation when I volunteered there when I was at my undergrad, and this is all about a copy of the book The End of Mr. Y, and it's like a really rare, it's supposedly cursed, and then she has this and she goes through loads of shit because it's cursed. This was a really enjoyable book. I had a great time reading it. I'm really glad I picked it up. I only picked it up because it looked cool and had black sprayed edges, which at the time was more unique, but I have never reached to reread it, so it should go. An Illumicrate book, The Drowned Woods by Emily Lloyd-Jones. This one was just fine. I kept it because it was pretty. It really is gorgeous. Like, I love these sprayed edges so much. Like, they're so pretty. And like, look at that. It's stunning, and there's like gorgeous other artwork inside. Like, usually I don't like the under dust jacket art, but this is so pretty. But I can't keep a book just because it's pretty. And yeah, the book is fine. It's enjoyable enough. It is a YA fantasy. It is all like nicely wrapped up in this short little book. I will never read it again. And another one I won't ever read again is Sarah Pinborough's Cross Her Heart. I enjoyed this. I remember I read this years ago and I really enjoyed it at the time. It's a thriller. I'm not going to reread it. The main reason I kept it actually is because these red sprayed edges were done by me. They're one of the first ever books that I sprayed because I knew I didn't care about it because it's a thriller and like I got this secondhand anyway from my aunt. So they look great like this, and then you like do that and they start looking like absolute shit. But I'm still like really happy with it. I still think it turned out really well. That's why I kept it. I do not need to keep it because I sprayed the edges. I've done that to other books. Okay, let's blast through these. So Maude Horton's Glorious Revenge by Lizzie Pook. Another one that was just, it was fine. I won't read it again. Soundless by Richelle Mead. It had a lot of potential and just didn't use that potential. The Seeing Stone by Crossley-Holland. I loved this when I was a kid and I always wanted to carry on with the series, but I never have, and I don't think I ever will now. I keep keeping this book when I go through unhauls thinking like, oh, maybe I will, maybe I'll finally like pick up the rest of the series. I don't think I ever will. One that I'm really debating, and I'm not sure about this one, and that is the Slated Trilogy by Teri. So this one, I actually got the first book signed. I read this on my phone when I was in sixth form and loved it, and this was when I was going through a lot. Sixth form was a bad time for me. 16 to 18-year-old at the time, non-compulsory education. It has changed since. But yeah, like, I was going through a lot. It wasn't a good time for me and I loved reading these, and then this one is signed and it pains me to like give that away. Maybe I'll just keep Slated, which feels weird because like it's a trilogy, you should keep the whole trilogy, but like this one is signed to me and these ones are not. I don't know. I don't know. Then one that was given to me by my parents, and that's the reason that it kept the cull. This was when I was doing my master's degree, and they sent it in like a little care package which was filled with sweets and things like that. And it's Giovanna and Tom Fletcher's Eve of Man. This is the first book in a trilogy, and it's a dystopian trilogy. It is YA, and that is why I've never continued with it. I was more into it at the time, but I don't think the books were out at the time actually, the rest of the series, and I haven't picked it up since the series. I've never reread it, and it's a bit young for me now, which is such a pity. The Devouring Grey by Christina Lynn Herman. This one, again, 3 stars, it's fine, I'll never reread it. I was keeping it because it's the first book where I requested It's the first book where I requested an arc from the publisher and they sent me it. That's the reason I kept this. Still don't really want to let go of it, but I need to be realistic. The Butcher by Laura Cat Young. I was enticed by the cover, the concept. Unfortunately, this is YA and it does not go as dark as I wanted it to. I was actually quite disappointed by it. Even for YA, it was quite light. So unfortunately, this was just a 3-star for me, and however beautiful it may be, it can go. And then, the last one of these, like, I just don't think I'll reread them. I really don't know about this one, and that is The Underground Railroad by Colson and Whitehead. I read this in a day. It is amazing. This is another one actually that I painted the edges of. I think it goes rather well. It's black. But yeah, so this is a fantastical imagining of the Underground Railroad, which was not actually underground, nor was it actually a railroad, but it's the way that enslaved peoples escaped in North America during the slave trade. And this was fantastically written, but I have never, ever reached to pick it up again. Like, it's a beautiful book, and I've never reached for it again. So, I'm like, do I keep it on my shelves just to kind of like have it as like a little trophy, or do I let someone else read it? I can be persuaded on like most of these, especially this stack. Okay, now for some childhood books. Now, I read some fantastic books when I was younger, but I don't need to keep them all on my shelves, so let's go through a few of those. So first up is Finding Audrey by Sophie Kinsella. This was one of her first YA books, and my mum worked in a bookshop at the time, so I got this arc of it, which is part of the reason why I'm struggling to give it away. It's one of the few contemporaries that I did actually enjoy, but I do think that if I go back and reread it, that I won't enjoy it as much, which is why I've never reread it, which is why I'm thinking this needs to go. This one, I'm really not sure about. It's the Divergent trilogy and the short stories 4. So Divergent, Allegiant, Insurgent and 4 by Veronica Roth. I loved these at the time when I read them, but I haven't reread them in a very long time, and I'm aware that if I want to go back to this YA dystopian era, the best way to do that is with The Hunger Games, which I have. I don't need to reread these. They aren't as good. Sorry, Veronica Roth, I did enjoy them, but they're not as well crafted as The Hunger Games, which I feel like are going to be a modern classic. And I don't know, part of me is like, oh, I should keep them, like I really enjoyed them, I had a good time with them. They're like but like teenage, enjoyed books. But I do need space on my shelves, so let me know what you think about these 4, because I'm not sure what to do with them. Then we have some manga that was gifted to me, and I read them, and they were fine, and I did not love them. This is the Gentleman's Alliance Cross, story and art by Arina Tanemura, volumes 1, 2 and 3. I read these years ago, when I was like 15, 16. I do not remember them, other than it's like based in a school, and I wasn't really that into them. So they can go, they can find a better home. Then, 2 books on the Highway Code. One of these is actually a friend's. I don't think she'll want it back because it's out of date, but I'll ask. But also, I passed my theory test and my driving test. I have a driver's license now at 27. It only took me a decade. I just didn't bother learning until I turned 26. Oh well, I know now. Still haven't bought the car. Working on it. Maybe someone can use them, but I don't need them. Then Secrets of the Henna Girl by Sophia Ahmed. This is another contemporary that I read. I think that this girl's like shipped off from Britain to Pakistan and then is like told that she's going to be in a forced marriage, and then it goes from there and like she tries to escape. I don't really remember it, and I don't really read this sort of book anymore, so I don't want to reread it, so I feel like this would do better in other hands. And then finally one that I really enjoyed when I was younger, and that is Apocalypse by Tim Bowler. This is this young boy with his parents are in a sailing boat in the middle of the ocean, and there's a storm and it sends them off course and they end up on this island, and the whole thing is about how the people who live on this island aren't friendly, and how they survive, and I'm pretty sure there's like a romance at the end of it. There is a... Are you fucking kidding me? Are you taking the absolute piss. This is how infrequently I've picked this book up. There is a book token in here, valid until the 31st of March 2011. It's 2024, Abby. I don't even know what to do with it. It feels like a relic. Well, that just solidified that one going. Jesus Christ. I'm at the end of a long filming session. I'm emotional. These books are not it, Chief. So, my most recent read, A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. No. Mary Sue, she's annoying. Get out of my shelves. Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig. Made me want to kill myself. Next, The Appeal by Janice Hallett. Offensive and poorly written. Goodbye. Book Overnight by Holly Black, supposedly her foray into adult literature. Bitch, this is YA. My first experience of Tahira Mafi with This Woven Kingdom. Loved Tahira Mafi, did not love This Woven Kingdom. Again, the female character, so annoying. And finally, is The Luminaries and The Hunting Moon, both by Susan Dennard. This is supposedly YA. It is written like it is for under middle grade, like for kids. With onomatopoeia. Why? It is poorly written, it is boring, it is predictable, it's frustrating. These books were a waste of my time. And they are going. I'm aware that they are very loved and also very pretty, so I will probably be selling them, just FYI. And that's it. Those are all the books that I'm unhauling. Here is the count of them on screen, because I'm not fucking doing it right now. I will not have actually unhauled these by the time the video goes up, because they're heavy and I have to walk them to the charity shop. However, if you think I should keep any of these for any specific reason, then please do let me know down in the comments below. There are some that are not in the hatred section that I could be persuaded to keep. Thank you so much for watching, folks. If you'd like to see what I actually managed to read and potentially keep in the future, then please do hit the subscribe button down below and click dislike if you hated this video. I'll see you folks in the next video. Bye!